Good afternoon, everybody. This is Joey C from the Brutally Sober podcast coming at you with my buddy Bobby C. As always, it's Monday. We skipped a couple days. I hope you didn't notice. I hope you didn't get too worried about us. But we're going to be doing part two today of connecting the dots and following the money. This is Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming podcast with your buddy Joey C from the Brutally Sober podcast and your buddy Bobby C from My Truth About AA Facebook group. What's going on, Bobby C?
Hey, Joey C, I missed you Saturday. We usually do a thing on Saturday, but Joey had some things he had to do, and it was good because I got back into it and did a little more research myself and connecting the dots, following the money. We're going to go off on a lot of different tangents today. People like to call, when we talk about this stuff, they like to call us conspiracy theorists or why you being so negative? Why are you deprogramming? Why are you debunking? What's all this negative stuff against Alcoholics Anonymous? And I'm just here to say that I'm just expressing some things that I found out, and hopefully, can help somebody, help some people. So that's why I think Joey and I are doing this podcast. Back to you, Joey.
Yeah, you know what? I did a little bit more research this week, and I tell you what, you can go down a rabbit hole pretty easy. And there's in the 19 I don't know 30s and around that area. There's so many freaking associations and councils and uh, groups and missions about getting rid of alcoholism and education of alcoholism and this and that. Like it'll make your head spin. There's the AMA, the NGCCA, the ABCDF, the XYZ. It's like there's so many things. So I'm trying to do research over here, and I'm trying to do a little basic timeline, and I'm looking at this group. This started in, I don't know, 1950 something, and then they have a list of names, and I go into and to try and do research on these people's names, and then that leads me to another group, and then that leads me to another group, and it just keeps going back and forth, and I have to while I'm doing my research, I have to remember where I'm getting my research from. The place where I'm getting my research from over here is all about AA, and they love AA. So I'm not going to get any information from these people except for, like positive reinforcement AA stuff.
Beautiful. Let me kick it something right where you're saying. Beautiful point, because I wrote down in the very beginning how history is manipulated to suit the history that they're talking about. And exactly what you're just saying. I wrote it down. How like the timelines and everything is about Alcoholics Anonymous, and they're not talking about the past, and they're not talking about connecting all the dots or following the money. They're only talking about how great AA is and this and that, and they spin it and make it look like really what we're deprogramming and debunking and going to show you some things that you can see through the veil. You can see through the smoke screen of different things where you could look. I always say, look beyond the triangle. When I say look beyond the triangle, look beyond the pyramid of Alcoholics Anonymous. And when you go beyond that, you can bring other things in. And Joey's right. When he's looking at all this thing, he's seeing a lot of positive stuff. Get back to you, Joey. So kick that back off. What were you talking about there?
Yeah, so I got to be mindful of where I'm getting my information from. One side, I'm getting my information from places like, for example, maybe something called, I don't know, AA.org, or as Bill sees it online.net, or something like that. It's going to be, an AA type of, a pro AA type of deal. You know what I mean? So I got to consider that. And then I go to another place where maybe I'm getting information where the author is coming from a point of view where he recovered from alcoholism with the Sinclair method or something like that. So I know where So maybe this guy where I'm getting hit my information from him, maybe he doesn't like AA. He tried AA. He did the Sinclair method. He's not really all about AA. So there's different perspectives I got to consider where my information is coming from. And what I did is just kind of merged the two, marbled them together, and I'm just continuously creating a little timeline since, starting with old man Benjamin Rush. We talked about him a couple episodes ago. He signed the Declaration of Independence, and he called habitual drunkenness a disease. He also, from what I read, said that it was progressive and it was hereditary. So I started from there, and right now I went from there to when Marty Mann started her uh, tour of promoting AA and the disease model and things like that, and to get a full knowledge of all this stuff is like, I mean, it seems to me right now, because it's so overwhelming to me, it seems like it could take years just to fluidly talk about the history of AA, the ins and outs of it from an unbiased perspective, and include everything that actually happened. To me right now, it seems almost impossible, but and since I'm actually interested in what I'm researching, I know that soon I actually will be able to do that, which is kind of cool because I just happen to be interested in it.
Okay, let me jump in then. Okay, that's great. See, people, we're not looking at the structure of Alcoholics Anonymous yet, because to know what happened, you got to know Rockefeller, how John D. Rockefeller played in. If you're not researching Rockefeller family from the 1900s, okay, you're not going to get any glimpse of what I'm talking about, okay, because this whole thing, and Rockefeller's family in 1937, Rockefeller's worth was 300 billion. He ruled 90% of the oil industry. This is in 1937. Okay. This is the same time after the Prohibition. Rockefeller was interested in the temperance movement. They were teetotalers. He didn't believe in drinking or smoking. He believed in making money, and that's all he believed in, is power, prestige, and money. And he was, to understand where I'm going with this, you have to look up the Morgans, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. But let's just stick with Rockefeller himself. So Rockefeller, in 1902, he created the General Education Board. Rockefeller gave $1 million initially. He gave $1 million to start this, and then the family eventually gave over 180 million. And what this was the hijacking of the holistic study of medicine, and it became his new medical. It was called the Country School of Tomorrow, the Country's School of Tomorrow for medicine, and it wanted to control and weaken the holistic education. And they printed out the Flexner report. If you go, all you got to do is Google Rockefeller connection with medicine, the Flexner report. I mean, that's how easy it is. You go to two sites, the Flexner report. And what the Flexner report was, it debunked, it kind of made all holistic practices quackery. Okay. It made all natural homeopathic medicines quackery. And that's when the hijacking of the medical industry and Rockefeller kind of took over the medical industry. And that's the same, that's in 1901. 1910, the Flexner report was written. And just to brief up, from 1910 to 1939, he created a drug trust with the alliance of a German pharmaceutical company, IG Farben. IG Farben, a German pharmaceutical company. All you got to do is look up IG Farben and how the alliance was made and how the drug trust was created by Rockefeller Foundation. So it ties into even his oil industry way back then. He didn't like the alcohol industry because cars could be created and ran by distilled ethanol. So he didn't like ethanol. So he had to go against the alcohol industry. And he did a lot with the prohibition and the temperance movement. And when we connect all these arms of control, which the money that he put into the education system, the medical field, is just like you were saying, Joe. When you get into it, it blows my mind. I got so much shit written down all over this place. I can't even get back to it. It's like my mind just doesn't know how to put it in place. So we got to understand the Rockefeller connection. And when you understand the Rockefeller connection, you can go to the timeline in Alcoholics Anonymous when Bill Wilson was trying to form Alcoholics Anonymous. And without seeing all that back there and bringing it forward into when Bill was introduced to the Rockefellers, you really can't connect any dots from back there to here. So all they want you to talk about is the pyramid of Alcoholics Anonymous. Then when you get into the meeting of Rockefeller, Frank Amos, and the Amos report, which was in 1938, I think, he was investigating Bill's program, which had about 50 members back then. And because Bill was broke, Bob was broke. They were broke for years. They didn't even have houses. They lost their homes. Okay, they had to stay with each other. Matter of fact, Frank P. took them in for a while, and then another group took them in, and then this other place rented this clubhouse, and they stayed upstairs for free. I mean, they were broke for years. Get back to you, Joe, so I could stop talking about that.
So I hear everything that you said about Rockefeller up until Bill Wilson ends up asking him for money. From my perspective, from what I've read, is that Bill got offered a job from Towns Hospital, where he stayed at and where Dr. Silkworth worked. He didn't take the job because he didn't want to be making money doing things like that, and his fellow members said it wasn't a good idea. So this kind of like put a flame under his ass, thinking that he actually, could make money doing stuff on his own if he actually had some capital. So he's goes to Rockefeller through his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law has a connection, and he asked Rockefeller for money, and he's looking for like millions of dollars, and Rockefeller only ends up giving him and Dr. Bob like $5,000, and that's like enough for them to like pay rent or something like that. So I still haven't come across where Rockefeller gave gave Alcoholics Anonymous a shit ton of money. Like, how did
Okay,
I
okay,
still don't understand how he
okay.
gave
See,
Alcoholics Anonymous
it was
specifically.
Rockefeller is a genius. He was a genius. Okay, he was a genius in setting up foundations. He created so many different. I mean, he hijacked the AMA and created all these entities and poured in so much money through the for the education system. He created foundations after foundations. Rockefeller Foundation is just look it up. It's just foundations. He was brilliant. He surrounded himself with brilliant people. Frank Amos was an advisor. So was Richardson. Okay, so uh, William Richardson, because Bill's brother-in-law, Leonard Strong, hooked him up with Richardson. So
Right,
Leonard hooked him up with Richardson.
right.
Richardson knew he had the in with the Rockefeller. He was an advisor with
Hmm.
the Rockefeller Foundation. Frank Amos was an advisor. Another one was, I think, Wood. So you, you got 1938 is when Frank Amos did the report. Rockefeller sent Frank Amos to do, see, because Rockefeller was looking at this thing that they were getting together. They they did a thing, no God or something. They promoted. It was all promotion. Then he got Alexander. Uh, what's the name? I forget his last name. To do an article. They did an article, and then Rockefeller had the dinner. But
Right,
here's the deal. Hank Hank P. Hank Parkhurst. Okay, Rockefeller was watching this all along. Everything. Frank and Bill got together, and they sold 600 shares of stock to the members. This is before uh, Rockefeller gave him anything. So he sees that Hank P. and Bill get together. They sell 600 shares to the members, 25 apiece. Bill keeps 200. Hank keeps 200. They sell 200, and they get $5,000 to help do some publishing. So Hank wanted Bill and Hank together to form the corporation and to kind of own the rights. Rockefeller seen this, and I know for a fact that Rockefeller went in there and talked because of the Frank Amos report, because of Richardson, because they were the trustees. They became trustees. So Rockefeller bought the 600 shares. I mean, the 200 shares off of Bill. He bought them back. They went and bought every share from the other 200 members. And at the end, Hank, he went out and got drunk, and Bill took over his office, and he had all his furniture there. And Hank said, you owe me $200. And Bill said, look, give me the shares back, and I'll give you the furniture. That's actually in the history of it. Okay. So it was all like a scam. When they started selling these shares, It wasn't even a corporation, wasn't even formed. It wasn't even legal. Okay. What they were doing was totally illegal and off the chart. Rockefeller seen it. He knew. He knew. So he bought everything back, and I believe he didn't even help do it. I mean, he showed him exactly how to form a foundation, and it was called Alcoholics Anonymous Foundation. And that's when it went from Hank and all the shares to AA owning it, Alcoholics Anonymous Foundation owning it. Okay. And that was some crazy shit. A lot of struggling going on. I mean, you gotta understand that Bill and Dr. They were broke. They, they were moving from one place to another. They were living over here. Alcoholics Anonymous meetings weren't even going on for like 5 years. They were still Oxford group meetings. Back to you, Joe. Talk about that. That's Hank P.
Okay, now can you explain who Hank P is? Wait, is he a
He's the fifth member of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Oh, okay. He's a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now,
It was Bill W's friend. He was a salesman. He actually worked for Standard Oil. And who owns Standard Oil?
gotcha.
Rockefeller. Okay. So go ahead. Back to you. Go ahead. You got any more questions on that?
Yeah. I vaguely remember reading about a good portion of what you were just talking about, but I don't understand. So, what shares were being traded?
They were making them up. It was a certificate because Bill Wilson was a stockbroker, so he knew how to do that. And Hank P, he was a salesman. He knew exactly what to do, what to say, how to sell it. He just went to like Office, it wasn't Office Depot back then, or Office Max, got these things, certificates, and created these shares. And these people, there was 50 of them. These people that he sold the shares to, and Hank, you got 200, 200, and 200, 600. They would have been the owners of all the book. They would have been the owners of the book. Okay. Rockefeller didn't want that. That was ridiculous. And Bill screwed up big time. And he had to buy all the shit back. And he had to get Hank's stuff back. There was one hold off. One guy waited 2 years, didn't sell the share back. So this thing went on for a long time with this book. Because it was called Works Publishing Company. And then when the foundation started, it was called Alcoholics Anonymous Foundation, which eventually turned into General Service Board. Okay. So it's all about, you have to understand what foundations are, okay, and how they get money, because foundations, Rockefeller helped them form this foundation because that's how they got some money. Rockefeller wasn't stupid. He lent them money. But he knew, he said, you're going to be self-supporting after a while. And it took them to 1946. You're talking 1935, 46. That's 10, 11 years to be self-supporting. Okay, so how in the hell do you think they got the money? They got the money through all the book sales. This whole thing is about two corporations, which is one Alcoholics Anonymous Foundation, and the other one is a Grapevine Foundation. This is all set up by all Rockefeller's associates. This thing is big and powerful. And Bill W. and Dr. Bob, Dr. Bob eventually, not much soon after, he went back to the hospital and he was opening up treatment center. He was running like a treatment center. He actually started to do things that, see, Bill could have did anything with he's seen more money and more power and prestige of what Rockefeller was going to get for him than anything. Because if you look up how much royalty Bill got from the book and how much Lois got from the book, this whole thing, this whole pyramid is made up of the two corporations. But the Grapevine Corporation is where all the pamphlets, literatures, and book sales happen. That's where the money's made. And if you look, see, they had to re-educate the whole system. So that's why Rockefeller he took over the whole education system and transformed it into what they wanted. I mean, he actually started a foundation for the cancer. I mean, years. He was like one of the first for the cancer. Get back to you, Joe.
Okay, so Rockefeller gave him money through shares and this and that. I still don't know exactly how much and exactly how, because I heard everything you said, but I still have to do. There's just so much involved. Um,
Well, everything I just said about Rockefeller and the stocks is all AA history. You can look that up in any AA history. I mean, it's all see, everything is in plain sight. There's nothing that's not in plain sight, but that's why you got to connect the past and do a timeline throughout the history and then up until today. Without connecting them dots and following the money, it just looks like Rockefeller just gave them some money. He was a great guy, and that was it. And Bill W. did all this stuff, and he was a wonderful man. And that's all bullshit. You know.
you see, to be honest with you, I still don't. That's how I see it. I don't
I
see
know. I
any.
know. I know.
I
Well,
don't see anything wrong with Bill taking money and I mean he had he's spending his whole life trying to do these things, and if he's going to get a little extra money or a lot of extra money while he's doing it, I don't care. um I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I and where is all that
either do
money?
I. Either do I. I don't care about Bill W. Bill W. was such a small little cog in what I'm talking about. I don't care about Bill. He
Right.
made he made peanuts. He My whole thing is how Rockefeller hijacked the whole system and created the new temperance movement, which is Rockefeller's temperance movement, is Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, that's Rockefeller's design of the temperance movement that he always wanted. Okay, and it's a control system of everything that comes after. See, Rockefeller doesn't look at the now; he looks into the future always. So so we have to look into the past, bring it into the timeline of the beginning of the Alcoholics, and then look further into the future. So that's exactly what a typical uh, comeback with me talking about Bill W., which you just said is exactly what all the members say. It's just typical. Okay, so it's like almost textbook what you just said, and that's exactly what they want everybody to say. They don't want them to look at anything else. I don't have a complaint about Bill W., Lois, Dr. Bob, or anything. Marty Mann. She was even a little player in the cog, but she was a big player in the sense that Marty Mann, Jellenick, and Brinkley together created all these agencies, professionalism, and expanded alcoholism into education about furthering the disease concept to the family disease. So it goes to the children, the family, the alcoholic, the Al Anon, the 12-step community. It goes further into it. So Rockefeller liked that. He was watching. Rockefeller watched this whole thing develop from the probably 3 years prior to him really getting involved, because he got involved in 1940. So Bill got sober in 1935. So here's Bill. Bill meets Bob 6 months into sobriety. Bob gets sober. 2 weeks later, Bill R gets sober. Then Ernie gets sober, and then that's when Hank came into the picture. He was the fifth alcoholic. And if you really dig into it, they screwed Hank P big time. Okay, just by doing, because he was the brain. He helped write this whole thing. He was the one that set up the organization, moved the business to a little location, and he kind of always pushed Bill. You know, he always pushed Bill to kind of motivate him, because Hank was such a good salesman at the time when he was sober. But I think Hank died eventually, you know, and they say he died drunk, he died using, and but he had brief times of recovery, and then he drank and they had recovery. But that's here and there. Back to you, Joey.
So Bill and Bob, I mean, they're just small time characters in this Rockefeller scheme. Now, forgive me for if I'm beating a dead horse. I am a little dense sometimes. I don't know. I don't understand. I still don't understand what is up. What's Rockefeller doing behind the scenes while Bill and Bob are doing their thing, and why should I be uh say why should I think that it's wrong, and why should anyone coming into AA care about what Rockefeller did, um, specifically while Dr. Bob and Bill were doing their thing, getting AA going.
That's another exact response that I would get back, or anyone that would get back that was talking like me would get. And I've got that through time, through even friends of mine, close friends. Why do I have to give a shit about that? AA's helping people. And that's the total response. Why do I have to care about anything in the world other than myself? And Alcoholics Anonymous is doing a good deal. So why should I concern myself about anything? Me personally, you don't really have to. I'm not trying to tell anybody what they what they have to do. Okay, I'm just trying to maybe if I say something to you might trigger you maybe 5 years from now. Could trigger you. Who knows? Maybe it won't ever trigger you onto something. But without you looking into the history of Rockefeller's connection, and without people looking into the medical industry that Rockefeller has to deal with, and how he created the whole modern medicine, okay, created the whole thing, professionalism, and how the agenda of the alcohol disease concept plays in, and how does he, what does he care about it? Well, if see, like I said, Rockefeller's he's not like us. He cares about the future, and he cares about power, prestige, and money, and monopoly. He cares about the future. That's why he bought the same timeline. It's all going about the same timeline, 10 years. Okay, 1935 to 45, 46, say. You're talking when Rockefeller bought into the pharmaceutical industry. Then you have to look at the alcoholism medical industry, where drugs and alcohol come into play with all the different drugs. That's when methadone came out, methadone. Rockefeller controlled 80% of the two biggest industries in the world, pharmaceutical and weaponized industrial weaponry industry, wars. Okay, they're the two biggest. Pharmaceutical is second. The war mongoling, more war profiteering is number one in the world. I mean, it just, you know, look it up. That's in plain sight too. All the stuff I talk about is in plain sight. But unless you don't give a shit and you don't connect the dots, doesn't matter. You know, I happen to give a shit about it, and here's the reason why. Because this is why you wonder why, Bobby, why are you doing this? Why are you even doing a deprogramming podcast? because of the manipulation, the coercion, and the manipulation, really, and let's say the programming of getting another human being into a Christian fellowship or a religious fellowship and having them give their will and their life over to the care of AA for life and recruit others for life. To me, that is called slavery. It's not freedom, it's a slavery. Now, I see it this way. That's my perspective of my reality, of my life through my experience, through time. Uh, like I say, time is just good in between and bad, made up of a bunch of stuff. We all have just the now. But my consciousness of what I know to be true today, in my reality of the now, my perspective, is that I'm helping someone uh, not be enslaved by Alcoholics Anonymous. You may say, I'm not enslaved, and you're not. You aren't enslaved. I could see it. But that doesn't mean you won't be in the future. Okay. So maybe I can see something in the future that other people can't. You think that's not a possibility? I mean, if we couldn't learn shit, then why do we have second grade? I mean, why do we have fifth grade? Why do we have 12th grade? I mean, if there's not levels of consciousness or awareness, then what are all these damn layers of education about? You know. So when I say I'm deprogramming, I connect the dots. I, it just may make it beyond the triangle just a little bit to tip over one way or the other, where a person can consciously make a choice, because I believe in the power of choice, to check out something else so they can expand themselves and don't get so brainwashed into a cult mentality that this is it and I must do this to stay alive. And if I don't, I will surely go to jail, institution, or death. Okay. So I do it for that. Another reason why I do it is because I want my grandchildren and the other generations to experience all these other realms. Now, they might start in AA, you know. Back to you, Joey.
Okay. So Rockefeller, from what I understand, didn't have anything to do with, correct me if I'm wrong, like the steps and how AA works, like one on one, and how an AA meeting should be run and things like that. And you've said that my response to what you're saying is common, especially from people, from AA members. Um, so I feel that I am um, an unbiased researcher of AA history, and I'm doing research. I'm still, I got a long way to go, but so I just asked you, why should that matter to me? Why should Rockefeller's involvement with AA matter to me? And when I asked that, I truly want to know, because I don't know specifically. I still don't know specifically why I should why I should be upset or feel that it's wrong. I don't know. I understand that Rockefeller owns the medical industry and he owns pharmaceutical industry, I'm sure. And so if he can run the doctors, he can tell them to sell the drugs, then he's making money off the doctors and he's making money off the drugs. But what is his involvement with AA like if you're going to compare his involvement to the medical.
It's I'll just use one word, control. Okay, for you to understand, or not to you, I'm sorry, but for the audience to understand control, you have to know the past history of anything. Okay, and you have to really be aware and kind of want to know who's controlling you, and you know, certain people believe certain things. You know, certain people believe that the government don't control them, that it's, you know, it's a, me personally, I believe that we're under control by, you know, government and religion and certain societies. So it's about control, Joey. Did Rockefeller looked at the where the steps came from, and you don't think he did? He looked at exact. Rockefeller was involved with the temperance. He believed in it. They were teetotalers. He loved. He When I tell you Alcoholics Anonymous is Rockefeller's temperance movement, that alone should tell you that that's an achievement. That's a form of control. If he can control that, he can control the narrative of everything else. Okay, because all the alcoholics and all the drug addicts and all the helpless people are put into a triangle. I don't care if it's NA or NA. That's control. Okay, so why would he do this? For money, but not the money that Alcoholics Anonymous is getting. It's not, he didn't do the steps because the steps all came from the Oxford group. All the steps, I mean, Bill admits it. In one of the big articles, Bill wrote about the Oxford group, giving a tribute back to the Oxford group, said the steps came from the Oxford group. That's a religious organization. I think the one step that didn't came from Silkworth and Ebby, where, you know, they believed in the disease concept. The only thing that came from Bill and Silkworth and them was stick with push the disease concept. Okay. And I believe he was told that push that disease concept, because you don't think they knew about all the other stuff in history about the disease? You think that Bill just came up with this word? You've been doing some research, so you know that the word alcoholism and Rush and Magnus and all these other players knew about the created the disease concept. Okay, so no, Rockefeller didn't. He's seen it was religious. He's seen it was Christianity, or not even Christianity. Let's just say I use the word religion, but he knew it was a religious perfection. See, 12 is a symbolism for perfection. Okay. And back then in the temperance movement, they wanted perfection. They wanted the elimination of alcohol because they knew how dangerous it was. Especially it was dangerous for society in the sense they couldn't get, you know, they didn't, they wanted workers. They didn't want their workers to be drunk. You know, Carnegie, if you look up Carnegie and, you know, Napoleon Hill and all these big time players, they were all into perfectionism, you know, they wanted people to join their corporations. They didn't want them drunk. They didn't want drunkards. They knew how dangerous, Rush knew how dangerous alcohol was, the spirits back then. And it is still dangerous. I mean, if anybody thinks when I start deprogramming, wait till I get into deprogramming the alcohol industry, okay? The alcohol industry is the biggest bullshit brainwashing. I believe in power of choice. You want to drink? You want a drug? Go ahead. But when you're manipulated, that's what this whole thing's about. That's why I'm talking about this. The manipulation of the pyramid. If you're manipulated and controlled into believing and thinking something through brainwashing and repetition over and over again, then I think that's wrong. You know, I don't think it's right. So it's just what the same thing that the alcohol industry is doing. They're brainwashing everybody through the repetition of all advertisements, billions and billions and billions of dollars of advertisements to our children, wives, families, alcohol. They knew back then in the 1800s how bad alcohol was. They knew it worse. They had the truth back then more than we have today. And if you think that this is shit is better today, it's worse. Okay. So what did the Rockefeller want? Control. He wanted control because at the end game, most people are on psych meds. Okay. There's in the rock side, you got Sinclair method. That's a drug. Okay. They use a drug for not drinking for dopamine, the blockage. You know, methadone. When methadone came out, it's a drug. What they use methadone. They're all drugs. Drug after drug after drug after drug. Look at all the drugs they use. Okay. So it's a control system, you know, and Rockefeller sees the future. He don't care about the steps. He cares about control. The traditions control the whole hierarchy, the pyramid, the hierarchy. So yes, he did care about the traditions and the concepts, okay, because they control the society. They keep it intact. All right. So yes, he cared about that, but he cared about the meetings and all that other stuff. No, he's seen it was, you know, they promoted this. It was promote Alcoholics Anonymous in the traditions. What's it say? No promotion, attraction versus that's bullshit. Okay, they've been promoting this shit forever. Rockefeller promoted the shit out of it. All the big shots. You know, in the beginning, there was no. They were all prestigious people that came into Alcoholics Anonymous. All business people. You know, the first 50 when Frank Amos did the report, they all had good jobs. They had all. You know, there were CEOs. There was all kinds of money people. Really, in the beginning, only money people could get help because they had the money because they didn't have the insurance. They called them dry tanks. So rich people would go into dry tanks. No one would know it. They give out the money, and they still do that today. I could talk about all the AA places where I know people that just got out of jail 6 months and started mansions. They rented mansions in Scottsdale, okay, and and started rehabs with chefs and all their families were they weren't insured because they were doing it in a different way. All the shit, cash, they pay them cash. There's money in recovery. The addiction recovery industry is a multi-trillion-dollar business. Okay, so why do I care? I just care about shit. Back to you, Joey.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's money to be made in the what we call I don't even know what to call it, recovery industry or rehab industry or drug industry or whatever. A lot of people, a lot of the people that I was looking into that had information that were on the other side of AA were kind of like pro Sinclair method. So they're just taking a taking a drug to help their alcoholism, um, and I don't agree or disagree with that, and I don't know why I'm veering off to that right now. I think it's just because it's just like a common theme that I found when I'm getting information from somewhere other than AA. They're kind of coming from like a that like a Sinclair method kind of a background because these people that I'm getting information from, they kind of they don't really um, acknowledge or believe that they necessarily have like early childhood trauma or that they drink because of character defects or things like that. They simply believe that they got addicted to a drug, okay, or that they're susceptible to being addicted to a drug because of their genes, and so they don't necessarily need to go through therapy and things like that. They just they say, oh well, if there was only a pill to cure alcoholism, these people, you know, I don't want to speak for all of them, but it seems like they tend to believe that, hey, you know what, there is a pill that cures alcoholism, and it's called what is it now, Trexone? That
Yeah.
does. Okay, so it seems like they do believe that a pill um it was made to cure alcoholism. Um, I don't know why I'm going off on that right now, but I just found that interesting because that's kind of where a lot of people from that perspective are coming from, and the people that are coming from AA's perspective, as I'm doing the research, are obviously think that it's more because of maybe you did have trauma or you're working through stuff and you drink for reasons other than actually being like physically and mentally addicted to it. You drink because you're escaping some childhood trauma or something like that. Again, I don't know why I veered off to that, but that was, I guess that was in the back of my mind for some reason. Maybe we can.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I don't. We could do it. We could do a podcast on that, and hopefully, people would comment on that. Me personally, I've never taken it, so I can't really talk about it. Here's what this is. I can only tell people my belief and what I feel and what I think I experienced through, other. Agree that if they want to take a pill to get off of alcohol and eventually get off of the pill, you know, I would tend to agree with that. But for me to replace alcohol, because every drug has a side effect. I mean, if you don't know that, then you don't know much about any pharmaceutical drug. Every drug has a side effect, and you could talk to a lot of people that had probably side effects of the Sinclair method. But if they're taking something to get off of alcohol eventually, I believe that's okay. But if they're taking a drug, thinking that they can take the drug the rest of their lives and still drink, like I got to take a drug now I can still have a drink. Me personally, I don't see any upside to that. I just see a downside. I see two preoccupations. One is taking a pill, and one is thinking that you're going to go get a drink still somewhere. So me, I don't need to think about a drink. I don't need to think about a pill. So to me, that's freedom, and that's what my podcast on anonymous addiction at My Truth About AA, as Bobby C sees it, is all about. It's about freedom. It's about freedom of choice. You could choose that, but I have freedom to tell you another thing that may work out. And I find out the best and easiest, and we all possess it. No one doesn't. The best and easiest for me is control of abstinence. I don't have to control abstinence. I just don't do it. Or if you want to do moderation and you can, then fine. If you could get back to drinking and drink moderately, more power to you. And if it doesn't cause you trouble, if you feel like drinking and that's what your thing is, more power to you. Moderation, yeah. Okay, like we talked about before, your moderation can be different than my moderation. So I believe that anyone can quit drinking and drugging just like millions and millions and millions and millions of people have done. That's how simple it is. Without going anywhere. I mean, you can go get help. Hey, if somebody wants to go to Alcoholics Anonymous for a little while and then go to Smart Recovery and check out, read a spiritual book, go to yoga, go to Refuge Recovery, or go to Dharma Recovery, or do Fabry, do anything you want, or do the Sinclair, or do it. But don't stop. Don't think that that's it. Keep on checking things out. MAT is big. MAT, harm reduction. MAT is MAT, which is medical assisted treatment or therapy, which is what? It's introduction of pharmaceutical product into the system while you're getting off. Hey, I don't have, all I'm saying is follow the money. All I'm saying is connect the dots and follow the money. Rockefeller is not stupid. He's a monopoly in the pharmaceutical industry today. He probably controls 80% of it, okay, in the world. All right. So do whatever you want to do. We're just here to kind of go back and forth. And I'm not here to make Joey believe what I believe in. And he's not here to change my mind. I'm not here to change his mind. I'm just here to maybe bring something else into the consciousness that can help someone go a little, check out something else, just a little bit more.
Bobby, it's been another hour, another time travel. I just don't understand. Every time we get together, like an hour goes by like that. I don't know. Maybe for the listener, that it seems like about 3 hours, but for me, it sounds it seems like 5 minutes. I enjoyed this conversation. We had a good back and forth. We have maybe different perspectives from our own research and our own experience, and that we're able to have a nice dialect back and forth with each other, and we're constantly learning from each other. And this is part of my program. I'm doing I'm doing an Alcoholics Anonymous deprogramming podcast right now. In a couple hours, I'm going to go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. All right. I'm going to go do another podcast tonight, probably a brutally sober podcast tonight. All right, so check that out. I'm going to go on to Bobby C's Anonymous Addiction Facebook group tonight. I'm going to go check that out. I'm going to do some more reading tonight. I forget which book I think I'm in between books right now. I ordered a couple other AA history books that I'm waiting on. I'm gonna read those next week. This is all part of my program. Okay. Um, I'm not gonna take a drink today because I don't want to. I know I'm familiar with. I'm familiar enough by now with the cause and effect and what happens when Joey C drinks and the feeling that he gets when he drinks. All right, I know what it's all about. All right, and I know what sacrifices I will have to make if I ever decided to go back to what I used to do, which is drink whenever I possibly could. So yeah, I'm doing my thing. Before I forget, I want you guys. We mentioned Andy Scarantino last week because I was on her podcast a few weeks ago. I want you guys to check out her latest podcast that came out this morning. Our own good buddy Bobby C is on it. It's a great podcast. It's a lot of great information that the two of them talked about, and yeah, definitely check out the Get the Fuck Off podcast with Andy Scarantino. Our buddy Bobby C is on the latest episode. Please check it out. Um, Bobby C, you got anything else for what we talked about, or anything else going on? Anything else going on in your life you want to talk about?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I didn't get to listen to it yet because I was preparing for today, and I seen Andy posted it up, and I appreciate that so much. And I'll give her a hit. I'll say something today to her later on. Just getting back, doing a little timeline real quick. Like Kenzie, this guy Kenzie, Dr. Kenzie, alcoholism cure in 1870. He had a cure in 1870, and he had the double chlorine of gold cures for drunkenness. I think he used chlorine. Okay, and then Freud, he used cocaine. So all these people had different cures. He used cocaine. Freud used cocaine to treat alcoholism and morphine. He called it the magic drug, cocaine. Okay. So what you know today is probably going to be bullshit for tomorrow. So listen up, people. Yeah, Freud back in the 1890s. And then you had the Emmanuel movements. They believed in something. Then in 1935, listen to this, in 1935, the Lexington Farm for narcotics, narco farms, right? They actually researched on human subjects, and they were doing some bad shit trying to experiment on drug addicts and alcoholics. This is only in 1935. And then then the Oxford Group in 1935. Then in 1950, like 90 million members. 1952, the AMA defined alcoholism primary chronic disease. 1957, the VA treatment centers. 1958, halfway house associations. 1960, EM Jellenick promotes disease concept. 1964, insurance, full-blown insurance for the whole industry. 1964, the methadone program. 1972, the FDA approves methadone. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on. It's just never ending. The simplest thing is just don't pick up a drink or a drug if you want to maintain abstinence and further your expansion of your consciousness and awareness. You know, you got to want it. You got to desire it. You got to want this thing. If you don't want it, then do whatever you're doing. Like, it's not that I don't care, but I have no control over anybody. But I got so much shit that I didn't go through it all. I didn't probably touch on none of it. But check out Anonymous Addiction, My Truth About AA as Bobby C sees it. And I say as Bobby C sees it because sooner or later, Joey's going to go to as Bill sees it meeting, candlelight. And he'll open up the little book as Bill sees it and read Bill's stuff. So you could check out Bill's stuff or Bobby C sees it, or you know what? I prefer it to be Joey as Joey C sees it, okay? Instead of as Alcoholics Anonymous sees it, as Joey C sees it. I'll end with that. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. And we will see you next Saturday, probably, unless we need to postpone it. You never know. We're a couple we're two guys. We got a lot going on, all right? Hey, so just take it easy.
We got life to live.
We got life to live. We do this because we enjoy it. I do it because I enjoy it. I like hanging out with Bobby C. And it's part of my program, like I said. So most likely we'll see you guys on Saturday. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And everyone, be good, be safe, and we'll see you later.
Take care.